If you remember when lager was suddenly cool, if you were fond of Jane, if you always wanted a Kit Kat, then you should stay in Saturday night. I Love 1983, 9:05, BBC Two.
Hello, you're his old bird, aren't you?
There are days
Director inquiries, House of Commons, please.
Adrian, tell him.
It's in London.
that even Adrian Mole's diary would rather forget.
Dazzles with the food.
It's not in the sink.
I've got a fungus on my feet, so what do you want me to do?
I can't leave here. My shed's here and everything.
Adrian Mole,
I don't watch television, I'm a bit of an intellectual. My favourite's probably La La.
the Cappuccino Years.
I'm a public health inspector. Who's in charge of the kitchen?
Tomorrow at 9:30 on BBC One.
This has driven me mad. My whole life has been writing letters.
Are we really a nation of bad complainers? A tantalising look at the world of customer care.
Have you got any realistic chance of getting £6,000?
Absolutely none whatsoever.
Get me the manager. Tomorrow at 7 on BBC One.
This is BBC One in the South East. Now the news at 10 o'clock with Michael Burke and Mike Embley.
Michael Stone will go on trial again for the Russell family murders. His first conviction's been quashed, but in weeks he'll be back in court. Tony Blair set out Labour's plans for a second term in office. 80 flood warnings tonight as southern England slips below water again. And the back door to Britain, the route for thousands of illegal immigrants.
In the southeast, the tube strikes are off, but there could be trouble down the line. The biggest union plans to reballot. End of a nightmare for pop star Billie. A fan is convicted of threatening to kill her.
Good evening. The appeal court has quashed Michael Stone's convictions for the savage attack on the Russell family, which left Lynn Russell and her daughter Megan dead and her other daughter Josie badly injured. But he will have to face another trial. The proceedings will start within 2 months. The court rejected his lawyer's claims that the publicity over the case would make a new trial unfair.
Michael Stone came to court in a prison van. Everyone wanted his picture. He was serving 3 life sentences for a crime he says he never committed. He went into court in handcuffs. He hoped to emerge later a free man. After a day of legal submissions at the Court of Appeal, the 3 judges agreed to overturn the conviction, but they ordered a retrial. Michael Stone will once again have to face a jury. It's all because this man, Barry Thompson, a key prosecution witness, admitted he had told a pack of lies during the original case. The court decided he could no longer be trusted as a reliable witness. The media interest in this hearing has been immense. The solicitor and family of Michael Stone emerged from the court to make a brief statement.
Michael Stone is very pleased that his convictions have been quashed and is looking forward to a chance to prove his innocence at the retrial.
Then there was a comment from Michael Stone's sister.
At least he's got a chance to prove his innocence now, and we're thrilled to pieces. The conviction's squashed.
Earlier, William Clegg QC, representing Stone, argued that there could not be a fair trial because of the welter of prejudicial material which had been printed in the media in the past. But in court, Nigel Sweeney QC, for the Crown, submitted that a fair trial was possible, saying we in the criminal courts invest juries with good sense and good judgment. It was 1996 when Lynn Russell and her 6-year-old daughter Megan were killed in a hammer attack. Josie Russell, 9 at the time, survived the assault, but she suffered serious head injuries. Tonight, Michael Stone remained in custody, but he is said to be pleased that he was now getting a second hearing. The date and venue still has to be decided. Josie, now 13, has rebuilt her life. Once again, she may be asked to relive the moment her mother and sister were murdered. Stephen Cape, BBC News, at the Court of Appeal.
Tony Blair has been spelling out Labour's goals for a second term in office. Speaking in a North London school, he said there would be more specialist secondary schools and extra money to encourage more pupils from state schools to apply for places at top universities. He also promised tougher measures against crime. The Conservatives say the government's failed to deliver on the promises it made in the last manifesto.
Tony Blair's aura of success hasn't quite faded yet, but appealing to children like these is a lot easier than convincing the country that Labour's still worth getting excited about, especially when it's so far ahead in the polls. So today, at this new school in London, the Prime Minister wanted to answer the question, what does Labour believe in? His answer, a fairer society.
The mission that we have for any second term must be this: to break down the barriers that hold people back, to create real upward mobility, a society that is open, genuinely based on merit, where people are treated of equal worth.
It'd be hard for anyone to disagree with that, but Mr Blair was offering policy, some new, some old. Within 10 years, half of the under-30s would have a university education, an old promise, but there'd also be more places for state school children long before that.
There will be no quotas, no lowering of entry standards. It is a strictly meritocratic programme, but its purpose will be to say to pupils, even in the toughest inner-city schools, your background shouldn't hold you back. If you have the ability, you should get the place.
Ambitious plans cost money. Tony Blair promised £18 million to help state pupils get into 27 universities, including Oxford and Cambridge. The idea of specialist secondary schools is already off the drawing board, but Mr Blair increased the target number from 1,000 to 1,500 over 5 years, and a new specialism, business schools. Here today and in coming weeks, Tony Blair's trying to generate enthusiasm for the idea of giving Labour a second term of office. Next week, there'll be a promise to transform comprehensive schools. Next month, a plan to overhaul the criminal justice system. The polls and the pundits say the election is bound to be predictable. Now the politicians are trying to make sure it's a genuine battle of ideas. It'll certainly be a battle. Tonight in Huddersfield, the Tory leader William Hague is saying services are failing under Labour.
The waiting lists have gone up, the police numbers have been slashed, many of the class sizes have increased in this country, the asylum system is out of control. And what does he do? He says he's got a plan for the next 10 years. What has he been doing for the last 4 years?
The Lib Dems say they'd pay more for services. Their leader, Charles Kennedy, is accusing Tony Blair of dodging awkward questions.
What's he going to do about tuition fees? What's he going to do about care of the elderly and personal care into old age? These are the big questions that people care about, and they're not being answered by this speech.
At number 10, they're working on Labour's manifesto, but most of the ideas will be coming out early. The campaign's been declared in all but name, and Tony Blair's forcing the pace. John Pienaar, BBC News.
Well, our political editor, Andrew Marr, is in Downing Street. Andrew, it sounds like socialist ideals to be achieved, in some cases, by what sounds like Tory means. What did you make of it?
Well, it certainly was the least socialist speech, I think, that any Labour leader has ever made, but with a very strong social agenda underneath it. I think there is a serious danger that we are actually going to go into a general election campaign with all the main parties offering fresh, interesting policies. The Conservatives have come out with a lot of interesting stuff on tax, on families, and on other matters, the Lib Dems too. And now Labour is going to produce a huge raft of policies. But the main thrust, I think, of what Tony Blair is saying is it takes a long time to turn a country around. His spokesman Alistair Campbell, just behind me a little while ago, was saying that this is about, it's like building a house. It takes a long time to choose the ground, build the foundations, and then you can raise the house quite quickly. This is Bob the Builder politics. Can we do it? Yes, we can. No, say the Tories, it's all just mud and bits of plastic yellow pipe lying around. Give us a go.
The pace of what seems very like electioneering seems to be hotting up. Do you think there's a chance that we might have an election before May the 3rd?
Well, the latest, ripest scuttlebutt from round Westminster is that it might even be April the 5th. A lot of local Labour parties are geared up for April the 5th, and if you look at the extraordinarily large number of announcements that are coming between now and the budget, then you see that this is an extraordinarily fast political agenda developing. Almost every day there is something big that they want us to talk about. This looks like, if it's going to be May, then we're going to have an awful lot of time standing around in Downing Street talking about policies day after day after day.
Better get used to it. OK, Andy, thanks very much indeed. The Bank of England has made the first cut in interest rates for more than 18 months. The base rate has dropped by 0.25% to 5.75%. Mortgage lenders have already responded with similar reductions in their rates.
There's not much sign of inflation. Go along to a travel agent to book the summer break, and prices this year aren't that far from last year's. At this online travel agent today, fierce competition means prices of holidays have barely budged in 12 months.
We haven't seen any inflationary pressure in the travel industry this year. In fact, the opposite is true. Across all sectors of travel, we're seeing prices come down, particularly in the hotel and package sectors.
So no sign of steeply rising prices, falling prices sometimes. A week in Mallorca, say, cost £149 last year, now it's £119. The same with other goods. Take a microwave, £189 last year, now it's £139. A tin of beans was 23p, now it's twopence cheaper. And mortgage repayments are falling after the cut in interest rates. On a £60,000 mortgage, the cut means £10 a month off the repayment. The cloud in a clear sky comes from America. The Bank of England fears slow spending there may cross the Atlantic, hence the gentle boost to British spending.
Quite clearly, in deciding to cut interest rates this time around, the Bank of England has looked over the Atlantic at developments in the United States and decided that those are worrying enough to cause it to ease rates to try and offset any impact that slower growth in the United States might have on the UK.
Beleaguered British manufacturing got a boost today. Lower interest rates mean cheaper borrowing to modernise. Today, BMW opened a new engine plant south of Birmingham. This factory in the heart of Britain is absolutely state-of-the-art. They don't come any better anywhere in the world. It absolutely hums with efficiency. There's no oil, no noise. Life for people who make things, for manufacturers in Britain, is starting to get a little bit easier. So there is now a brightening prospect, demand growing steadily without costs roaring away. Lower interest rates should bring the pound down against the euro, so making British exports cheaper. More interest rate cuts are expected. The only seriously dark cloud would be if America slows down very sharply. Stephen Evans, BBC News.
Heavy rain has again led to widespread flooding, especially in the south of England. 80 flood warnings have been issued. Many homes are being evacuated near the River Cuckmere in East Sussex. Nearly 55 millimetres of rain fell in some parts, normally the figure for the entire month of February.
Kent and Sussex have borne the brunt of the recent rainfall. The Environment Agency's issued 9 severe flood warnings for the south of England, as rivers burst their banks and water gushed into people's living rooms. In some places, the water is waist high, and it's predicted that there's more rain on the way. Jill Riches lost all her downstairs furniture in the last floods.
I lost everything downstairs in October, absolutely everything. And the few bits that we have got, which aren't many, are up on bricks all the time.
Police patrols checked properties and helped evacuate residents, but some people were reluctant to leave their homes.
They want to rescue me and they won't let them.
Inshore rescue teams at Pet Level near Hastings took residents and their animals to evacuation centres on higher ground.
There are quite a few people that wanted to come out straight away. Water was about 3-4 feet deep in their houses. They wanted to come out with the pets and most of their belongings as well. Quite a few people wanted to stay, but we mostly convinced them to go as well.
In East Anglia, there are currently 26 flood warnings. After losing their winter crops to flooding, some farmers must be wondering where it'll all end. In Yorkshire, the River Ouse swelled throughout the day, but water levels here in York aren't as high as last autumn. At Bolton Percy, just south of York, farmers used tractors and trailers to rescue a bus full of school children after they became trapped in the floodwaters. Renewed flooding inevitably spells more travel chaos on the roads and railways. Rachel Ellison, BBC News.
Our environment correspondent Richard Bilton is in Lewes in East Sussex, where people have been warned that they may have to leave their homes. Richard, again, they'll be renaming it Atlantis. What's happening there now?
Well, that's right. It's not a good atmosphere here tonight. There is a real feeling of threat, as you say. They know what floods are about here. They spent 4 days underwater, this city centre. That's why the sandbags are out. They're in place right through the city centre here, or the town centre. 200 families in this place are still without their homes. Many of the businesses have never recovered from what happened before. And now they face the prospect of the thing that caused that damage bursting its banks again. Tonight is a high tide here. At midnight, this river will peak. We've got the river flowing down, the rain flowing down from the hills, and the sea coming in and raising the levels here. Now, at the moment, they seem to be succeeding, but as you say, people have been warned they may have to leave their homes. Businesses are fearing their worst. They're all dreading what could happen if this river burst its banks again.
Richard, thanks very much. A large car bomb has exploded in an ultra-Orthodox Jewish area of Jerusalem. Police said it was remarkable that nobody had been killed. Israel's blaming Palestinian extremists. The newly elected Prime Minister Ariel Sharon said Palestinians must stop what he called terror and violence before peace talks can start again.
The car bomb exploded in a densely populated part of the city. There was no warning. Police and bomb squad officers here say it was a very large device. Looking at the twisted wreckage of the vehicle, it's hard to believe that no one was killed. One woman was taken to hospital. Her injuries are not thought to be serious. But among the ultra-Orthodox Jews who live here, there is a sense of shock that terrorists have attacked and fear that they may strike again.
The most inhabited area in Jerusalem, they're trying to kill people. This is a war. This is not a peace process. It's a war.
This is an attack in the centre of the Israeli capital, and it sends a clear challenge to the man who's just been elected as this country's new leader, on the promise that he would bring the people peace and security. Ariel Sharon was quick to give his response to the bombing. Israel wants to go on with the peace process, he said, but that depends on a complete stop in violence. This tragic event requires us all to unite firmly against terror. After the bombing, there was dancing and celebration that the shards of twisted metal had not killed anyone. But for these people and the incoming Israeli government, all this underlines the need for a new hardline approach to peace talks with the Palestinians. Tonight, the Americans have said the bombing is a reminder of the need to forge a just and lasting peace. But with another Palestinian Day of Rage planned for tomorrow, this region is bracing itself for more violence and more bloodshed. Jeremy Cook, BBC News, Jerusalem.
The Irish Prime Minister, Bertie Ahern, has called off a private visit to Scotland because of fears that it could lead to tensions between Catholics and Protestants. Mr Ahern was due to watch the Celtic Rangers match this weekend. He's now accepted an official invitation to visit Scotland later in the year. The profits of the oil company Shell rose by 85% last year to a record £9 billion. The firm said its performance had been boosted by the high price of oil and gas. Some motorists have accused Shell of being greedy and have called for an immediate cut in petrol prices. And Barclays Bank has made profits of £3.5 billion, up by more than £1 billion on last year. The bank has been implementing a rigorous cost-cutting programme. It closed a tenth of its branches during the year and cut nearly 3,000 jobs. The Home Secretary Jack Straw says the gangs who smuggle asylum seekers across Europe must face the same stiff penalties wherever they operate. He's been meeting other European ministers to try to find a common strategy for keeping out illegal immigrants. More than half of those who enter Western Europe illegally arrive from the Balkans, around 50,000 from Bosnia last year alone. John Sopel has been to Sarajevo. Lax immigration controls mean it's a popular transit point for those seeking a better life in the West.
The one-way ticket to Europe. This flight from Istanbul has over 100 people on board. None intends to stay in Bosnia, none will go home. Their real destination, Western Europe. Because no visas are required at Sarajevo, this is the illegal immigrants' launchpad. The under-resourced border police simply can't cope, and so the UN is bringing in additional help from around the world, including police officers from Britain.
At the moment, the people are now waiting to actually meet the traffickers at this end.
And for the traffickers, it's easy and lucrative work. 400 crossing points out of Bosnia, only 4 of them manned.
With regard to the flight that just come in, probably 120 Turkish on that flight. Very few of them will return on the same flight. The rest will disappear within this country and then eventually head across the border and in the main probably head towards Britain.
But first they gather in Sarajevo's main square. In this highly organised trade, they're even told what to say to the authorities. They've come here on holiday. A script line that some find hard to deliver with a straight face.
Tourists. You're tourists.
But this group of Tunisians were more forthcoming about where they wanted to go.
Many countries, Italy, Germany, London.
And you're looking for work there?
For work, yeah.
Do you have visas?
Visas? No. We have lots of visas.
In a city with so many problems, the UN believes that corruption is endemic and that the West needs to focus its help here if this multi-million-pound trade in human cargo is to end. 5 years on from the end of the civil war, the ethnic cleansing, Bosnia remains something of a lawless state, its infrastructure in ruins. And so the one big growth industry here is racketeering. That in turn is attracting the poor and dispossessed from around the world who want to get to Western Europe and Britain. Since September, 12,000 people have arrived at Sarajevo airport from Iran, Turkey, Tunisia, Pakistan and India. Figures show only 1,500 left. The missing 10,000 are en route to the west. John Sopel, BBC News, Sarajevo.
A Roman Catholic workman has been injured in a terrorist bomb attack in Northern Ireland. He's the latest victim of an upsurge in violence that's being blamed on loyalist paramilitaries who are disillusioned with the peace process. Attacks are now taking place at a rate of more than one a night.
The security forces searched the scene of the latest sectarian murder bid in Northern Ireland. A homemade bomb blew up in a workman's face as he climbed into the cab of this digger. He's recovering in hospital, fortunate to be alive. Every night the innocent are targeted. Pipe bombs hurled through windows and doors. Last night it was the turn of Patrick Vincent and his pregnant girlfriend.
I heard the bang and the flash. I realised what happened. I knew it wasn't a fire bang, it was a cracker. I knew it had to be something serious.
Since the start of the year, there have been almost 50 terrorist attacks, mostly on Catholic property. That's more than one a night. A Catholic couple and their 4 young children lived here until Sunday, when a pipe bomb sparked an inferno that could have killed them all.
That wasn't to scare us. They didn't know whose house, it was just random, they threw it into our house. But that was to kill. It had to be. To see the aftermath of that house, I mean, I never went back until I seen it on the news. I mean, that was to kill.
Designed to murder and maim, the pipe bomb is simple but devastating. A length of metal tubing packed with gunpowder. The largest loyalist paramilitary group, the Ulster Defence Association, is supposedly on ceasefire, but is being blamed for these attacks. The UDA initially supported the Good Friday Agreement and the peace process, but that support has gradually drifted away. With bomb attacks now a daily occurrence, the government may soon have to decide that the UDA ceasefire is a sham and take action against it. Tom Coulter, BBC News, Belfast.
The former Northern Ireland Secretary, Peter Mandelson, is carrying out public engagements in his Hartlepool constituency this evening for the first time since resigning from the government. When he arrived for the first of them, there was an incident in which a BBC cameraman was knocked to the ground.
A special service at St Hilda's Church in Hartlepool was Mr Mandelson's first public appearance in the constituency since his latest resignation. The former Northern Ireland Secretary arrived with his police bodyguards, avoiding questions, but not a BBC cameraman.
Mr Mandelson, was it a mistake to resign?
Sorry. Only afterwards did Mr Mandelson's party proffer some explanation.
Excuse me, we can't see where we're going. Can you move aside, please?
The MP was beginning a weekend of constituency events, cementing his relationship with the people he represents at Westminster. Tonight's appearance here launched Peter Mandelson's campaign to retain political support in Hartlepool. He'll hope the rest of the electioneering goes more smoothly. Outside St Hilda's, Mr Mandelson watched a firework display celebrating the 800th year of the town's Royal Charter, a colourful crescendo to a night of local politics. John Thorne, BBC News, Hartlepool.
A short time ago, Mr Mandelson issued a statement criticising the behaviour of the cameramen in the churchyard. We all sympathise with the media's need for news pictures, he said, but to behave like that in the grounds of a church is not right. Helmut Kohl, the German Chancellor who led his country to reunification, has agreed to pay a personal fine of £100,000 in order to avoid facing trial and a possible criminal conviction. Mr. Kohl is at the centre of allegations of kickbacks and bribes to his Christian Democrat Party during the 1980s and 90s.
Helmut Kohl, the colossus of German reunification, will not, after all, end his days in jail. Nor would a criminal conviction stain his place in history, even though he broke the law. Ever the consummate politician, Mr. Kohl has cut a deal. He'll atone for his part in the massive funding scandal by paying £100,000 out-of-court settlement, which leaves his political opponents fuming.
It's a scandal. It still remains a scandal what happened, that the former Chancellor broke law, ignored law, decided or defined for himself what is law.
When this massive oil refinery in the former East Germany was sold to the French, it's alleged that kickbacks were paid direct into the coffers of Mr. Kohl's party. In another shady deal, a suitcase of cash was handed to a party official in a Swiss car park. During the course of the exhaustive investigations, Helmut Kohl admitted to knowing about £600,000 of illegal donations. But he absolutely refuses to say where the money came from, claiming his promise to protect his benefactors' anonymity is more important than the law. His party now hopes for an end to the affair.
A huge scandal which the Greens and the Social Democrats depicted just never happened.
When Europe's dominant statesman was swept up in this scandal, Germany's political establishment was shaken to its roots. But 1 year on, this country's longest-serving Chancellor will receive little more than a rap across the knuckles, and an affair which began with a roar will end in a whisper. Peter Morgan, BBC News in Berlin.
OK, it's 25 past 10. I'll be back a little later with an update on the day's headlines. But now we join our news teams across the UK.
And the latest in the southeast. The good news is, if you travel to work by tube, you can get there next Monday. The strikes on London Underground, set for February the 12th and 19th, are suspended. The bad news, unions say it's not over yet. As talks ended today, negotiators warned that without a guarantee of no compulsory redundancies, they might still strike next month. Our transport correspondent Andrew Winstanley reports.
This morning the strikes were still on, but so were the talks.
Hopeful that we can resolve the situation. I'm going to be positive today. Obviously we've got some suggestions to put to them and see if we can find a definite way forward.
We've come over here to resolve the dispute, no doubt about that. The dispute could have been resolved a long time ago.
The union leaders seem more willing to reach a settlement. The agenda still focused on safety and job security issues. It all revolved around the government's public-private partnership for modernising the tube. Outside London Underground's headquarters here at St James's Park, travellers on the District and Circle lines who'd suffer if no deal was reached. As the lift door closed, London Underground's team were upstairs preparing for an agreement. 4.5 hours later, talks ended. The unions went out the back door. But here at RMT headquarters near Euston, they were ready to talk after conferring with their national executive.
The deal as such is not a deal. We're still in dispute with London Underground. What we've got is 25% of what we wanted.
Here's how it breaks down. The strikes planned for the 12th and 19th of February are suspended while talks continue. Already agreed, though, is a joint Union London Underground committee overseeing all aspects of safety. But if there are no further agreements, joint strikes could be called again in March. But it doesn't look promising, as London Underground are still saying they won't be able to meet the key union demand of no compulsory redundancies.
It's not over yet. They've only suspended the industrial action, and we need to keep talking over these next 2-3 weeks. We need to keep talking, keep developing some of the proposals that they have concerns about, and bring this to a happy conclusion.
Anne Burford from London Underground, ending that report by Andrew Winstanley. In South London, detectives investigating the murder of 10-year-old Damilola Taylor say a significant new witness has come forward. Officers are talking to someone who saw a confrontation between Damilola and a group of young people. The police believe they are closing in on those responsible for the killing in Peckham last November. A woman's been found guilty of threatening to kill the singer Billie Piper. Juliet Peters is 32 and from Canning Town in East London. She's due to be sentenced next month after the judge has considered psychiatric reports. David Sillitoe was in court.
Excellent, Pete. Like it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go.
It was Billie's appearance on the Pepsi chart show that started it all off. Billie was presenting, and to her right, audience member Juliet Peters. It was only on the second viewing of the footage that Juliet Peters decided that this was a sly, dirty look. In court, a clearly distressed Billie Piper described how months later answer phone messages had been left for her at her record company. Peters had been threatening that she'd be shot on stage, beheaded, mutilated, and that letter bombs would be sent. Billie Piper said she could only listen to the first two of what was a series of calls made over 11 days in August of last year. Although said to be not suffering from mental illness, Juliet Peters said she had been bored and depressed because of prolonged unemployment, and that she felt no one would take the threat seriously. However, after conviction, the jury said that they felt more psychiatric reports were needed into what the judge described as a very unusual lady.
David Sillitoe. Arsenal midfielder Patrick Vieira has been found guilty of violent conduct by an FA disciplinary panel. He's been banned for one game and fined £10,000. The Frenchman faced two charges relating to the Gunners' league match with Leeds last November. He was found guilty of kicking Leeds player Olivier Dacourt, but cleared of an alleged headbutting. Engineers have just about finished nearly 4 weeks of routine maintenance work on the London Eye. The wheel's been shut since January the 15th, while specialists from Germany, Italy and the Netherlands service all moving parts. It's back in business from 10 this Saturday morning. Finally, attention, all chocoholics. Help to kick the habit may be at hand. Research by dietitians at a London hospital suggests that a vanilla patch will stave off those comfort food cravings. Sarah Harris has the story.
Sweets for my sweet, sugar for my honey, I'll never ever.
For many, the temptation is just too great. Chocolate, the bane of weight-watching men and women everywhere, and healthy-eating wannabes.
I just like the taste of it.
It's very Moorish, it helps you feel relaxed. That's all really.
The help now at hand is in the same form as smokers beat their habit. Researchers at St George's Hospital in Tooting found that wearing vanilla patches halved wearers' confectionery intake over a 4-week period.
We noted a halving of the chocolate intake in the vanilla group compared with the other groups, but also the intake of sweet foods in general was significantly reduced. Fatty foods and alcohol intake didn't significantly reduce between the three groups, so obviously this patch was particularly useful for those that liked very sweet foods in their diet.
For many, chocolate cravings prove just too much to resist, but after a whiff of the patch, the brain is tricked into believing you've already had your fix. The woman who invented them has given up her day job to market them full-time.
I thought if I can find a smell that will put me off chocolate, I'll have cracked it, and it worked. I found a smell. It's a bit like when you've cooked Christmas dinner and you sit down to eat it and you're absolutely fed up of it.
The chocolate cravings patches are already available in the shops, and there's no reason why other versions shouldn't be developed for things like stress and insomnia. The only problem for many of us is finding enough room on our arm to fit them all on. Sarah Harris, Newsroom South East.
Now back to Michael Burke.
And the main news again tonight. The man found guilty of beating to death Lynn and Megan Russell is to face a new trial. The court rejected his lawyer's claims that publicity over the case would make a new trial unfair. And Tony Blair's plans for a second term in office include promises to improve secondary schools. Question Time is next here on BBC One, and Newsnight is starting now over on BBC Two. And from the 10 o'clock news, good night.
Good evening to you. We've had a very wet day in the southeast of Britain today. 55 millimetres of rain falling in Folkestone. That's about 2 and a bit inches of rain, and it has caused flood problems. But the good news is that rain seems to have moved away now. It's still a little bit left down in the far southwest and moving towards the Channel Islands. But an area of high pressure is moving right across us to give us a much better day on Friday. But it's all change again at the weekend as the next area of low pressure, the next weather system sweeps in. Strong winds and some rain and some sleet and snow on that system, and eventually the milder air wins and sweeps through, so everyone will be milder by the time we get to lunchtime on Sunday. But it is going to be a cold night overnight tonight, -3 to -10 the lows. But it also means there'll be a few icy patches around, especially where we've seen that recent rain. But Friday's forecast is quite good. A lot of dry weather around, just the risk of the odd snow shower around those coastal fringes. A little bit of mist, but that'll soon clear. And everywhere should see a little bit of sunshine during the course of the day. Just a few snow showers left across the more northern parts of Scotland. Now, Scotland's had a good day today. They've had a lot of fine, dry weather, very cold though. And in fact, across the Scottish ski resorts, we've got some of the best skiing conditions we've seen for almost 10 years. Many of the resorts have loads of snow, and with the sunshine and the dry conditions and the light winds tomorrow, it should be a good skiing day. And you can find out more about skiing across other parts of the world later tonight on BBC One with our skiing forecast. Now, temperatures tomorrow, well, in the north, holding below freezing, but in the south, 4 or 5 degrees, perhaps feeling better than it did today because the sunshine will be out. And then Saturday's forecast, it's all change as that weather front arrives. Now, for a time, some of that rain will turn to sleet and then snow. Could be an hour or so of snow as it pushes its way steadily northwards. The worst affected areas will be to the north of the Midlands northwards as that rain turns to sleet and then snow, and then eventually turning back to rain as the milder air winds out. Now, the forecast for Sunday is very much milder, with temperatures up into double figures for a good part of England and Wales, around about 9 degrees in Northern Ireland, even Scotland starting to see those temperatures climb back up. And that means much of that sleet and snow will start to melt. So we could have problems with flooding, certainly a lot of rain in some of the more central parts of England during the course of the day. And then next week, well, it will be mild and breezy, but with a risk of more rain at times, I think, and also possible further flooding. A lot of water around over the forthcoming weekend and the early part of next week. By the time we get to Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, though, we start to see a ridge of high pressure come across, so hopefully things dry up a little bit. But it will be wet in this forthcoming weekend. Bye for now.
Friday on BBC One at 9, politics in office gossip.
I'd sooner go out with Anne Widdecombe's much uglier sister than go out.
And at 9:30 in Adrian Mole the Cappuccino Years.
Help Tony Blair. Then join us for the BBC 10 o'clock news.
Laughs at 9, news at 10, Friday night on BBC One.
New partners in crime come to BBC One.
Well, got to keep me front up. I'm a problem prisoner.
Nick Berry.
Because of my work, I have to lie to people. But I don't bring my work home.
Stephen Tonkinson.
You're an undercover cop, aren't you?
You're far too smart to be another Tom on the street.
Indeed.
Bad news?
No, should it be?
Usually is when you turn up.
I think she's starting to like me.
A new crime double starts Monday, 19th of February on BBC One.
Can you ever be sure you found the man of your dreams?
I, Harvey, take thee, Leopoldina.
How could you do this to me? Discovered the secret of happiness.
He loves lavender. Dear Fanny, I've been in love with him for years.
Or know you're a match made in heaven.
How many husbands has she had? It's either 6 or 7.
Love in a Cold Climate concludes Sunday at 8 on BBC One.
I never want to leave you for as long as I live.
Now on BBC One, Question Time with David Dimbleby.
Tonight on Question Time, Home Office Minister Charles Clarke, with special responsibility for police and crime reduction, Andrew Lansley, Shadow Cabinet Office Minister, Chief Campaign Spokesman for the Tories at the next election, Liberal Democrat MP Jackie Ballard, who's on their Home Affairs team, Andrew Rawnsley, political columnist for The Observer, author of a book which told the inside story of tensions at Number 10 under New Labour, and Kouran Bilamoria, founder and managing director of Cobra Beer, one of Britain's 100 fastest growing companies. And this week we're in Lincoln, below the cathedral there, at the University of Lincoln, Good evening, and I just should say, as always, that our panel don't know any of the questions that are going to be put to them tonight before I read them out, or before the audience read them out. So let's have the first one, and it comes from Caroline Hardiman, who's a press assistant. Caroline Hardiman.
The government wants to attract people from disadvantaged backgrounds into higher education. Is this really possible with tuition fees and the fact that there's no longer a student grant available?
Andrew Lansley.
I think it strikes me as, frankly, hypocrisy for Mr. Blair to say that that is going to be one of his objectives for the second term, when one of the first things he did when he came into government was to abolish student grants and to introduce tuition fees. And indeed he claimed that he was doing it because the Deering report suggested that, but the Deering report suggested the introduction of tuition fees but did not propose the abolition of student grants. And indeed we saw today with the Education Select Committee that Labour MPs on that committee effectively censored their own report to exclude some of the most important facts about the take-up of places at universities and in higher education by those with lower incomes, that the rate at which that had been growing, people from poorer households going into higher education, had been growing fast before 1997 and has plateaued since.
Is it your policy to reverse this and to reintroduce student grants?
It's not our policy to reverse this. It is our policy, however, because...
We've just been condemning it, and now you say you won't reverse it.
No, because there are priorities. I'll tell you why, because we have a policy for higher education, and our priority for higher education is to secure a major endowment into universities, the benefit of which is that we will be able to reach agreements with higher education institutions so that they will not have to introduce top-up fees. Because what is happening in universities at the moment is that the amount of money each education institution is getting for the students that it receives per student is still continuing to go down. And what we need to do first is to stop universities introducing top-up fees. We have endowments for universities that will allow that to happen, and the mechanism will also enable student loans not to have to be repaid until those students after graduation are earning at least £20,000. Now anybody leaving university will know that is a big bonus, because at the moment you're paying, as soon as you get to £10,000, 9% of your salary beyond
Caroline
that.
Hardiman, you're nodding in agreement. Do you agree with what he's saying?
Yes, in essence I do.
I mean, do you think that it's tuition fees and student grants that are stopping people going into higher
Yeah, I
education?
think it will definitely have a really big impact on student numbers. If students are having to pay tuition fees, I think it will really put them off the idea of going to university.
Andrew Rawnsley?
Well, in a perfect world, we would fund our universities properly and we would look after students properly.
You mean free?
We have a real... Well, free. In a perfect political world, because we know we've already got a big problem, for instance, that we're not paying lecturers at universities properly, and the longer this goes on, we've got some of the best universities in the world in Britain, and the longer this goes on, we are going to undermine that base. But that's not a perfect world. It's on offer, as you just heard from Andrew Lansley, and it's not on offer from Charles Clarke either, because they don't think you'll pay the income tax to fund that perfect world. And that is why we're confronting the dilemma: do you make students pay tuition fees? Because if you don't, universities aren't going to be able to do their jobs properly.
Okay. Jackie Ballard?
Well, it wasn't a perfect world in the 1970s, but we managed to send people like me to university without having to pay tuition fees, and I got a grant, and it wasn't a generous grant, but I didn't end up in a huge debt. And you don't actually have to look very far to find a world that may not be perfect, but it's rather better than the world in England and Wales. You only have to look across the border to Scotland, where the Liberal Democrats forced Labour in the government of Scotland to abolish tuition fees there and to introduce bursaries instead of loans. And the proof of the pudding there, to come back to the young lady who asked the question, is that the numbers of applications have gone up since that has happened. So clearly, finance is one of the issues that puts people off applying for higher education. I opposed this very strongly, and I'm ashamed that it was my generation, not me as an individual, but my generation, that put this through Parliament as one of the first acts of a Labour government. And I opposed it both as a politician and also as the parent of someone who started university the year tuition fees came into being. And I have seen the impact that has had on young people. And it does terrify them. They might leave university with a debt of £7,000, £8,000 or £9,000. What a way to start your working life.
Okay. I'll just go to the woman in the second row here.
What concerns me the most is I've heard that the Conservatives, when you pay back your student loan, you're intending to put up the interest rate on that loan. So not only are students going to leave university with a £9,000 debt, it's going to grow yearly to fund your endowments to the universities.
But the Conservatives are going to do this.
That's what I've heard.
Very briefly, yes or no?
Well, the simple explanation is that at the same time we are proposing that there should be an additional tax allowance for graduates that offsets it, so that the total amount students pay by way of reimbursement of their loan wouldn't increase.
Let's go to the government minister here tonight, Charles Clarke. Jackie Ballard says she was ashamed when you abolished maintenance grants.
Yes, I heard that.
Were you? I mean, you were a beneficiary equally of free education.
Yes, I was. Yes, I was.
Were you upset by it? Ashamed of it?
I wasn't ashamed of it, no, and I voted for the changes because I thought it improved the system that we inherited from the Conservatives.
But you say you always vote for things, whether you believe in them or not, because you believe in party loyalty. I read you said that.
I do believe in party loyalty. I think that's the nature of politics. I also wrote articles in the papers at that time saying that I personally favoured a form of what was in shorthand called graduate tax, where the individual, the employer and the state all contributed to the income that moved forward.
So you didn't
and
want,
I think that
you
would be a
didn't want the
rational way
policy
to
that was
see it.
introduced.
But David, let me just...
No, hang on, you didn't want the policy that was introduced.
I thought the policy that was introduced was an improvement on what we had